A large house made of wood, surrounded by trees.
Welcome to Twin Peaks, The Gifted.
And the Damned.
My name's Bubba. You can find me on Twitter at FitandTrim. That's FITTENTRIM. At FitandTrim on Twitter. And the doppelganger. And the doppelganger to my sexy coop.
Hey.
It's another sexy coop in Mork. Mork, how you doing?
Oh, Bubba, I am so choice. How are you?
Your choice?
Yeah, man.
So, Mork, this is
Bubba.
it. We are going to be covering in our Twin Peaks Minutes the final episodes of Twin Peaks ever until a couple weeks later this month, May 2017.
Yeah.
Whoa.
It's pretty mind-blowing, and we are going to be talking about Firewalk with Me next, so it's not really the last. I will say I had a few double R's.
Double R's?
Radical revelations.
Whoa, by watching these episodes again.
Watching these episodes, and especially after having read the book, which I have a few, it gave me like a couple of theories about what we might be seeing in season 3. And
awesome.
So maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but it got my noodle cooking. So it was a lot of fun.
Excellent. On this week's The Gifted
and the Damned,
we're going to be covering your new iTunes reviews and starting our big month of prizes where we give away all the incredible things we have collected here on the podcast. We're also going to be
and the Damned.
We're also going to be focusing in on something I like to call a double C.
Double C?
Well, we're out here in Hollywood, and here...
Yeah, baby, Hollywood!
There's a lot of talk, and double C is one thing we Hollywood types like to refer to when we talk about a condescending Cooper.
Oh, man, it's the worst.
It is.
It's the worst.
We'll be doing those Twin Peaks Minutes where we talk about the White Lodge and the Black Lodge, the best and worst 60 seconds from the final 4 episodes of Season 2. We're going to have our Twin Peaks Celebrity Encounter, plus we're going to have kind of a quirky Black Lodge final bit where we try to solve how involved was David Lynch in the final part of Season 2, not just the episode he directed, but Season 2 as a whole, plus what that might say about Twin Peaks Season 3. Then finally, the best part of every podcast, we're going to be going over our double L feedback.
Double L?
That's what we like to call our loyal listeners.
Loyal listeners. You know, some people think the best part of the podcast is when it finishes.
Yes. That is.
And that's okay. We'll take it.
We will take it. As we gear up for Season 3, something we have waited...
mentally, emotionally, physically...
26 years for. Oof. I want to ask our double L's, our loyal listeners, a question right at the top.
Okay.
And that is...
Can I answer it or no?
You can answer it. Everybody can answer it.
Okay, all right.
And so... people on message boards, people on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, these kind of things, they're saying, you know, if Season 3 is just 18 hours of Kyle MacLachlan eating donuts, I'm going to love it. It'll just tickle me pink. You know, I'll be happy with 18 hours of Kyle MacLachlan eating donuts because we've been waiting so long, all these years for Season 3 to find out how's Annie, what happened to Agent Cooper, this kind of stuff. And I get the belief behind that. You know, I get the idea. Like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
But people are being facetious, I assume, that if they actually watched 18 hours of Agent Cooper eating donuts, would they really enjoy that?
Is it several donuts, or is it just one giant donut? If it was a giant donut, I could get into that.
Okay.
Coop has found himself trapped inside a donut, and that's been filled with cream corn, and he needs to eat his way out.
Sure.
Boom.
Yeah, so
it writes itself.
Mork, that is a great point.
Thank you,
18
Bubba.
hours of him eating a donut, you know, they actually could make that great.
Yeah, it could be good.
But, of course, 18 hours of eating a donut might come across as terrible. Might come across as, why are we watching
there is
this?
that. Yeah, there is that.
And so...
and it has been done before.
So I want to know from our loyal listeners, I want to know what you guys kind of want when we start reviewing the show. And we'll be covering all 18 hours here on Twin Peaks The Gifted.
And the Damned.
Podcast. So what do you want? Because honestly, I think we're going to give our honest opinion, and hopefully that won't, once again, frustrate anybody. And
Well, we'll see. I mean, yeah,
Right.
we have no idea what's coming, and it would be great to know if there are particular things that we should be paying attention to that are either going to turn into larger things. Are there contradictions that, okay, the book was different from the show for a reason, and here's why. So now all of the rambling and the chit-chat that we've been doing for these past only 25 episodes, it's all coming to a head. So we need all of your help. We need all your brain power figuring out, okay, what are the breadcrumbs that we need to pick up as we find our way home?
Right. And piggybacking on that, which is a great point, is that how willing are you to take kind of negative feedback on season 3? And so I just want to use a great example that actually just happened yesterday. Yesterday, Showtime released this fun new trailer showing many Twin Peaks iconic locations, but as they're going to appear in season 3, like, oh, here's how the Double R looks now, here's how the sheriff's station looks now, and that kind of stuff. And so I
Still no Wi-Fi at the sheriff's station. Still no Wi-Fi.
and only handheld, right? The cell signals are bad too, only landlines. And so anyway, I saw this and I started tweeting and putting out my thoughts. I was like, wow. So I just my thoughts are, where's the Great Northern? It had a bunch of iconic places, but the Great Northern is certainly an iconic place. And I wrote
the place.
Yeah, and I wrote, ooh, boy, you can really tell the new series was shot on video, not film. And then I wrote, boo. And I also made notes like, boy, it's interesting seeing modern cars, because even back in the 1990 series, most of the cars were actually classic cars from the 50s, 60s, 70s. And even Cooper's sedan that he drives was really a car of the early 80s, not a car.
Yeah, Pete had his old pickup truck.
Yeah.
Leland, who's a high-powered attorney. Probably safe to say Leland was the best-paid attorney in town.
Oh, yeah.
And he was driving like an old Chevy Caprice or something.
It was like the 70s or 60s.
I mean, you need a big trunk. Leland needs a big trunk for his golf clubs and people. But,
right. So I put out these thoughts, and literally somebody responded to my thoughts with, and so the whining begins.
Ooh.
It's not 1990 anymore. Tough luck, buddy.
Oh, man.
This is Lynch's new vision, not yours. And I was like, whoa.
Touche. Who was that? Do we know?
Somebody named Saber Flurry. Saber Flurry.
Ooh.
And so,
like a ninja.
I can I don't want to say anything tough about Saber Flurry. He could certainly have read when I wrote, where's the Great Northern? He could have read it like, where's the Great Northern?
Sure, yeah.
Which wasn't my intent, but I guess on the, text, sometimes it's hard to tell intent. But I suddenly thought, oh boy, if somebody has tough, a real negative response to something I thought was just kind of innocent. Oh wait, it's video instead of film, or oh look at these modern cars in the new trailer. Boy, how willing are people going to be to any sort of I don't know about that part. Boy, people are tough.
What you're asking are double L's.
Who? Double L's.
Loyal listeners.
Oh.
Is which one of us will be shot by an assassin before the end of season 3? That's what it comes down to.
Right. Saber Flurry is coming for us.
Saber Flurry is coming. So I think a reasonable response to Saber Flurry would be, okay, so yes, we know it's Lynch's vision, so are you on board no matter what?
Right, if 18 hours eating a donut.
So I'd be curious, and I would like to ask if he's listening, or I don't know, or if she's listening, or maybe if they just follow you at
Fit and Trim on Twitter.
Oh, look at that. If they just follow you. But I'd be curious to know, okay, what's their breaking point? When are they going to get a little nervous? Because I think in the back of, everyone's minds, anytime I start watching something, it's, in the beginning, it's, okay, I'm open-minded, I'm ready. And at a certain point, you're either in no matter what happens, or you're out no matter what happens. And I'll be in. I'll be in for the duration.
Oh yeah, I'm going to watch the whole thing. We're going to do the whole. Yeah.
There is a point where it's tough. Sometimes a show will dig itself a hole, and it's tough to climb out of it. None of the shows that we talk about here in the Double P Podcast Network are like that at all. None of the shows.
Not The Strain.
No, not The Strain.
They wouldn't have any trouble with characters, plotting,
or
setting,
The Strain.
Logic.
Not The Strain. But it happens, and and so we're excited. So, and we'll have a little bit of overload. I'm sort of thinking that the first weekend, I'm sure, as all of our peeps know, that the first 4 episodes are going to be available on the Showtime app online, and you can Bubba's login is Bubba at Showtime.com, and the password is 1234, so you can just borrow his. So there's the first
You know what?
four.
The password should be password, but written backwards in Red Room, Black Lodge language.
Nice.
Yeah, it's got.
How did they... Anyway, so I think that part of that is a strategic move, where maybe the first episode is maybe like the first episode of season 2, when we spent so much time with the old waiter walking around. Maybe they just want to get over a hump creatively, and then people are going to fall down. And because one thing that TV shows do, and I'm sure, if you ever read Entertainment Weekly, or some critics will talk about this, where they get, when a new show comes out, they get the opportunity to watch the first 4.
Oh, yeah.
And so
they get screeners, but they're not getting any. Critics are getting none. I've heard Tim Goodman from The Hollywood Reporter, he has implied that he's probably going to go to a screening either at the Ace Hotel, where the premiere happens 2 days before on the 19th of May, or they're going to go to a theater where they'll get a screening. And yet, theoretically, if you trust Tim Goodman, The Hollywood Reporter, an institution here, they're not going to be able to release their reviews.
Oh, they got an embargo.
They got an embargo until the show begins, right at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific.
How come
on the
no one
21st.
wants to embargo us?
Boy, I wish. Yeah, boy.
Come on. We would. That's when we know. That's when we know, is when we've been embargoed.
Right. You can't write your
Not
iTunes
allowed.
reviews until...
Not allowed.
And speaking of iTunes reviews, we've got 3 new ones this week. They're so nice and wonderful. And why don't we start in the USA iTunes Store? Mark, why don't you read this first?
Oh, man. Okay, this is awesome. Diana, these guys have a good show. 5 stars by J.R. Doom. Wow.
Heck yeah.
Thanks, J.R. Doom. Stumbled on the show to get some insight into the new Mark Frost book. Found your knowledge and witty banter to be exquisite.
Thank you.
Like continuing the joke of the actually Eastern Northern bit. But now I find myself continuing on this journey as you compare other shows and such to explain the show better. But I do have to say I have ADHD. So when a show like this has so many stories going on and genres, it helps to make it easier for me to at least to continue on. It's great to me all the side stories because it helps you in a way become distracted from solving clues or focusing too much on what the main story has going on. Because you don't care as much as you're almost on the edge of your seat to see more of what you like the most. There's got to be a balance of people you love and hate. Anyways, I'm curious if you guys remember the show Heart, She Holler with Patton Oswalt.
On Adult Swim. I remember it, yeah.
Okay. It was a Comedy Central show that parodied Twin Peaks a little bit, and I loved it. Also, I do a podcast called Action Toy Art. You can guess the subject, LOL. Anyway, I'm geeked, and we're finally getting Twin Peaks figures from the Reaction Funko line. Hell yeah. Will you be buying these? Probably.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's safe to say. Sorry to hog up all the room, but I will most likely enjoy taking up half your show while you read this. Anyway, I'll plug you guys, LOL, on my show. Keep it up. Answer my question, LOL. Okay, I think we have, and thank you so much, J.R. Doom, and we will check out your podcast, too.
Right, thank you so much, J.R. Doom. I thought it was an Adult Swim show. It's a Comedy Central show. Interesting. So thank you so much. You are eligible to win in these crazy May prize giveaways. We got a review from the UK.
Well, he's already got the toys, so we don't need to give him the toys.
Okay, that's a good point. Yeah. A review from the UK iTunes Store. This is from a user named HypnoToad168.
Okay.
And the title of the review is Let's Rock 5 stars. Ooh. Hey, Bubba and Mork, I found your podcast on YouTube after listening to The Secret History of Twin Peaks and was delighted and overjoyed at the series of podcasts covering the new book. I immediately binged all your shows to date, and I look forward to watching the new season with your podcast by my side. Wow. I, too, am an OG fan. Heck yeah. And love your approach, a brilliant blend of Twin Peaks academia and fanboy love. Engaging and entertaining, your observations and analysis made this Lonely Peaks Freaks a very happy and dyed in the blood double L.
Double L?
Well, you know what? HypnoToads168 doesn't say what he means by that. We'll have to ask him or her again. Thank you both so much for your show. Your first Twin Peaks podcast I've ever listened to, and having dipped a toe into the seething pool of many other podcasts out there, I know I will be sticking with us. Well, hey, there are great ones out there. Last thing, love the special guests you have on. Keep them coming. Cheers and sweeps. Ooh.
Sweeps.
Thank you so much, HypnoToad168. We have one final one also from the UK iTunes Store.
Oh, here we go. Okay, finally, a Twin Peaks podcast I enjoy. 5 stars.
Woo.
Wow, thank you so much. By Scottish Natural Water.
Delicious.
That sounds delicious. Great work, guys. Been searching for a great Twin Peaks podcast to listen to whilst in work at night, and this is the one. Well, fantastic. Scottish Natural Water is a nighttime brain surgeon. So we want to support the good doctor and all their great work, but please focus on the task at hand and, only listen to us when you get a break.
Well, excellent. these three people, in addition to everybody who's been kind enough to give us a written review on iTunes and go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/Double P Podcast, and like the page, you're eligible to win all the insane prizes we're about to give away.
Is that kindness, or are they just trying to win some prizes?
We don't differentiate here on the Gifted
in the damned
podcast. Sorry.
Well, it's good to know.
So, we are doing it. We are going to be giving away, we're going to be drawing 3 names. And
the 3 kindest people, that are 3 kindest double L's.
Double L's.
Loyal listeners.
On this podcast, and then 3 more names on next week's podcast. So if you want to get in on the prize giveaway, go ahead, write a written review on iTunes. You have to write one rather than just give stars so we can find you. Plus, like our Facebook page, then you're eligible to win. So we're giving away 3 prizes in this week. 3 prizes on our next podcast covering Firewalk with Me, and 3 prizes on the first episode of Season 3 podcast. This is insane. Because we have so many prizes, I'm not going to list them all. We have copies of The Secret History of Twin Peaks. We have Twin Peaks t-shirts we bought at the Festival of Disruption. We have postcards. We have posters. We have coasters. We have matchbooks. We've got art we purchased. We got so much stuff. We're just going to give it away and kind of first people to write in with your mailing address. You have to put your mailing address on our Facebook page. Just tell us tell us the type of things you like. We'll mail it out.
Are we going to give a special prize to Part-Timer John?
John Part-Timer. We're going to give him a special prize. His prize is we're going to sharing his prize with other people.
He will
That's
share
right.
it. Yeah, he's now
All right, so the first winner that we're drawing, the first one is Mr. Happy 121. That's Mr. Happy 121. Go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/Double P Podcast. That's the word double, the letter P, the word podcast, plural. Facebook.com/Double P Podcast. You have won a prize.
Oh, okay. This might be a little bit of the fixes in, but our next winner is Dale Coop.
Oh, from Francais. Ooh, excellent.
Wow.
We love that.
Love that
And
indeed.
our final...
You know how to find us.
Final prize winner that we're going to get to this week is... Let me draw it out of the prize drawing bowl. Ooh, I love this. Juan Carlos the Bear. Juan Carlos the Bear. Go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/Double P Podcast. Send us a message of your mailing address. And when you send the type of things of the stuff I've listed or anything else you might like. We probably Funko toys. We got so much stuff.
Right.
And we'll send it away. So, because people love our Twin Peaks guests so much.
Yeah, they do.
We decided to bring out a guest who really plays a big part in these episodes we're about to cover.
Yeah.
It's the one, the only, Killer Bob. Bob, come on out. He's slowly crawling over the sofa, making his way here to the podcasting table.
I feel really bad because the acoustics were a little off, so I moved the sofa to the opposite end
he's
of
coming.
the room.
He's a little slow.
So
he's getting very close. Okay, that's my personal space. That's my personal...
Yeah.
You don't have to get that close, Bob.
It's a little much.
Welcome to the killer's lair. Come down. I won't hurt you.
So, Bob, how you doing? What's going on?
Catch you with my death bag.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
So, you got anything coming up, Bob? What's shaking in your
What's
neck
new
of the
with
woods?
you?
You may think I've gone insane, but I promise I will kill again.
Well, that's killing again is something else to do. That's good.
Bob, I've got a new joke I wanted to run by you.
Yeah, let's hear this.
Hey, Bob, what time is it when you know you have to go to the dentist? Tooth hurdy.
Huh, where'd he go? I can see him there in the mirror, but I can't see him anywhere else.
No. Wait a minute.
Wait a minute.
Bubba, you're invading my personal space. Bubba.
All right, so
No, Bob, you can't have any prizes.
it's time for the final 4 Twin Peaks Minutes. Oh my goodness gracious.
A lot going on.
Let's do it. We're going to begin with the 19th episode of Season 2.
Or the 26th.
Known as Episode 26 of Overall, or as the Germans named it, Variations on Relations. That's a little rhyme and tongue twister there.
Rhyme and tongue twister. Written by Frost and Harley Payton. So
Heck yeah.
Part of almost 2/3 of really the main guys.
It was directed by Jonathan Sanger. Now, Sanger, this is something has a similar career to yours, Mork. He's mainly known as a producer. And he was a producer on the 1980 film The Elephant Man, which was directed by
David Lynch. Amazing.
And so Sanger got into directing. He mainly directed a lot of television. He actually directed an episode of Broken Badges, which was the Miguel Ferrer, a.k.a. the actor who played Albert
R.I.P.
Field's show, which kind of kept him away from Season 2 a lot. Sanger would go on to direct an episode of the Frost Lynch show On the Air, as well as an episode of Sequest. It wasn't the one that Robert Engels would write for, but it was the same year Engels was writing for the show. So Sanger, this is his one and final episode. Mork.
Yeah.
Because of our wonderful guest, Bob, why don't you start us off with the Black Lodge Minute, the worst 60 seconds in this episode.
All right. It's 18 minutes and 49 seconds in, and I'm sorry. It's 18 minutes and 49 seconds in, and we're in the cabin. We're in the woods. We're close to the Black Lodge, but we're not in the Black Lodge.
I like it.
And unfortunately, this minute is, to me, sort of a microcosm of what was wrong about how Windom Earle was presented and written and etc. Windom Earle, Leo, and Ted Raimi are in the cabin, and Ted Raimi is being paper-mache'd into the giant pond.
I should point out Ted Raimi actually was a cast member on Sequest as well.
Oh, was it really? Hell yeah. Go, Ted. So Windom Earle asks Leo for an arrow for his crossbow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Leo refuses. Windom Earle zaps him. He asks again. Leo refuses again. Windom Earle zaps him again, and then Leo gives him the arrow. Okay, so basically, a lot of what he's doing here is, I mean, he is being threatening, he is being menacing.
Yeah, I like that.
But it's all with physical violence. And
good point.
If you want to have a great villain, it has to be more than just, oh, this guy can beat you up, this guy can hurt you. If anyone had a crossbow in one hand and an electric remote control cattle prod in the other, they would be pretty dangerous. And there's really, I don't ever feel like there's anything more dangerous about Windom Earle with that stuff than, with anybody else. You think about a great villain like Hannibal Lecter. Hannibal Lecter is behind bars and you're still terrified of him.
Right, good point.
And so that I felt was sort of, Windom Earle does do some great stuff throughout, and he does motivate really everything that happens in these episodes, but he never really achieved as much villainy as I think he could have and should have.
Well, if I could piggyback on that, Mork, in that I have to believe, and it's never been flat out stated, but I have to believe Frost, to be honest, doesn't get enough credit for Cooper, because Frost put so much into Cooper, and of course Frost, with his love of Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes series, put so much of Sherlock Holmes into Cooper, and it really always felt like Earl was supposed to be a Moriarty.
Right.
And Moriarty in those books was brilliant. You're right, but he's often not physical. Mm-hmm. It is, it's all a mental, almost like a Lecter, like you're saying.
Exactly.
Well, Lecter behind the glass, yeah.
Sure, and there's but it's I think it boils down to sort of a respect the monster thing, where in order to have a great hero, you need to have a great villain, and I don't think Windom Earle was a great villain, but as we see, Windom Earle really wasn't the true villain of the show, but but he did occupy a lot of time, and so this minute it really did bother me. There's some other stuff I didn't enjoy. The wine tasting event, that felt like it was a lot of work just to get Dick Tremaine to get some wine on his white nose bandage. I really did enjoy our buddy Lynch putting a full smooch on Shelley in front of Bobby. That was great. There were some odd scenes.
Okay.
Billy Zane and Coop in front of the fire talking about love. Might be for me, I'm going to say the most homoerotic scene in the show.
All right.
No. And there was another scene in here that did kind of rub me the wrong way, and it's at the diner early in the show. Bobby telling Shelley that he's in charge now, and she's going to enter the Miss Twin Peaks contest.
Yeah, I thought maybe that scene existed to explain why Shelley would be willing to have this old man smoocher.
Right. That's a good point. That's a good
but it
point,
was unfun to see Bobby being a total douche.
And to sort of backtrack into how he was, and there's so many better ways, I think, to get Shelley into the contest. So it's interesting. I did not realize that Sanger had produced Elephant Man, because my White Lodge Minute actually features Jack Nance.
Jack Nance, who appears in Elephant Man, that's
what I meant.
Like one of the carnies.
Yeah, that's what I meant. He's one of the carnies. He was also the star of Racer. So it's 5 minutes 30 seconds in, and it's a very simple scene. It's Pete. He's mourning Josie over the chessboard, and Catherine walks in, and he's sort of reciting a poem, and he's trying to think of new words for the poem. Catherine walks in and is like, what the hell are you doing? And
this is a fun scene. Great. I'm glad you're pointing out Jack Nance. What a fun actor he is to watch.
No, he's really good. And for me, I think it was important at this point in the show, and we didn't know when we were watching this, we didn't know that the show was going to take a 25-year hiatus,
Right.
So, but sort of looking back on it, to kind of we're going back to Pete. Pete's in mourning. Pete, who found Laura's body, and Pete, who, despite being married to one of the more sneaky people on the show, Catherine Martell, he always stayed good. He always stayed, pure of heart. And, one of the things, so he's prattling on, he's talking about the Doolittle twins. Catherine's rolling her eyes. She's bored as hell. And if you think about, like, the people in the show, not necessarily the villains, but the people in the show who, Catherine, Ben Horn, Jerry Horn, they're in this beautiful place. They're surrounded by good people like Pete and like Sheriff Truman and
Lucy, right?
And Lucy and Shelley and Norma and Big Ed. I mean, these are good people, but it's like they're bored with that goodness, and the boredom with what's good in Twin Peaks and needing to have more than just what's good is what drives a lot of, maybe not all of the misery in the show, but at least in these characters' lives. And so I just sort of looking back on it, I thought it was a pretty powerful moment that I didn't really pay much attention to the first or even the second time it rolled around. But I really it really stuck out for me this episode. A couple interesting things I want to say in terms of theories about season 3.
Oh, let's hear it.
So the episode starts. We're in the cave. And we're walking down. The guys, and Truman, Hawk, Andy, Coop are all walking. And when they see the map, there's 2 flashlights pointed on the map. And they're 2 round flashlights.
Circles, baby.
So they're 2 circles. And so it's just the idea of these are 2 worlds. And 2 worlds colliding here. Also, later on, when we're hanging out with Wyndham Earle, he talks about what the Black Lodge is for and what it can do. And it can allow the person who has all that power to reorder the world to his liking. And so part of my thinking is what season 3 is going to be. We're going to see
good.
Coop has taken control and he's reordered the world to his liking, and whether that's good or bad, we won't know, but we'll see maybe. So just a little theory there.
Man, that is a very wonderful White Lodge Minute.
It was a good one.
Let's go to episode 27, The Path to the Black Lodge. It was done by Stephen Gyllenhaal, the director, who was, of course, the father of Jake and Maggie Gyllenhaal. Sure. Written by Harley Peyton and Robert Engels, April 18th, 1991. And another important Twin Peaks episode as far as back in 1990 was, it got yanked off the air again after this episode. And just as previously, it got yanked off the air when an episode that included Bob. Here we have Bob appearing again. Maybe he was bad. He was a bad sign. Bob, why did you do it?
Yeah, Bob. Bob, you're directly responsible for Jake Gyllenhaal, who we love.
I'm going to also start, in honor of Bob, with my Black Lodge
Everything we do here is in honor of Bob.
Or fear of Bob, right.
And fear, yeah.
So I'm going to minute 10, and let me tell you something. You were mentioning him. He's a special guy. It is minute 10 begins with Ben saying, Ghostwood, how am I supposed to get a hold of you? I need more time. As he speaks to Justice Jack Wheeler. It ends a minute later with Jack handing Ben a letter, and he makes for the door. Oh, my goodness gracious. We've talked about, in something I like to call Double P's.
Double P's?
Previous podcast. About how they introduced these 2 new characters, John Jack Justice Wheeler and Annie Blackburn, most likely because they needed something for
They needed new
Audrey
people for Audrey and Coop to make out with.
Right, since they weren't going to be...
And they grounded Laura Flynn Boyle.
Right. Right.
She's arguing with her parents.
So
having tantrum.
So if they weren't going to do the Coopery romance, the odder romance that everybody wanted, Team Coopery, they had to come up with these characters. And this minute 10, oh my goodness gracious. When Ben says, how am I supposed to get a hold of you? I need more time. John Jack Justice Wheeler responds with, a brave man is dead. Who that man is?
We don't know.
Some friend of his, right.
We've never met.
As he's saying, a brave man is dead, if you watch Billy Zane's eyes, it's like they keep shifting around the room as if he's searching for anything to focus on about this brave dead. A brave man is dead. He was stony like that chimney. He was hard as he had a wooden character like this floor. Like, it is tough. Now, John Justice Wheeler.
Yeah.
I've said this before, and I'm sticking to it. That is a wig. I'm willing to bet.
Oh, bite your tongue.
Lots of money on it. People look at minute 10. This is
it all fell out after that. No.
He's also, he's rocking a great outfit. He's got a brown shirt with identical color brown pants, and he's wearing his black leather jacket over it and his black shoes, black and brown. I'm rocking that color today. Let's do this.
Pretty fantastic.
Now, Ben, of course, has his button-down shirt, but he's not using any of the buttons. His chest is open because he had just had Doc Hayward check him for a physical.
Yeah.
Eye candy for blind ladies.
Absolutely.
He is showing it. Ben also says, of course, the classic line, damn this rainforest business anyway. I mean, this is tough. Ben is having a heart-to-heart with John Jack Justice Wheeler.
He inspires that. He does. You can't start talking to John Jack Justice Wheeler without starting to your heart will just open up.
Let me just say,
you'll start talking about the environment, the rainforest, love. It doesn't matter.
In both of these people, I wanted to stick some celery sticks. I wanted the conversation over. So that's my Black Lodge minute. I apologize to all the John Jack Justice Wheeler fans out there.
No, well, I also apologize to both of them.
Let's get to it now. This minute 44.
Yeah.
I have to be honest, Mark. I'm trying to be creative. I want to get, here's a unique best minute. But sometimes these episodes, I just have to go with what may be staring us in the face as the best minute. So I am going to minute 44.
Okay.
Minute 44 begins with Wyndham Earle saying, also a map to the Black Lodge. It ends a minute later as the camera begins to pan towards about 3 or 4 trees, which will, after my minute ends, show up as a circle of trees.
Yes.
This minute is all about mood. It's all about setting. It does admittedly have the plot revelation that the Owl Cave petroglyph is a map.
Yeah.
That's how the minute begins. But then after that, as he's saying it, the map of Twin Peaks overlays with the Owl Cave petroglyph has pretty much an identical outline of Black Lake as the town map. I'm kind of shocked nobody saw this earlier. Like, boy, that is the exact shape of Black Lake hidden in there.
Well, it's hard to tell, in eastern and possibly western Washington State.
Right, to have maps. That's true. So Wyndham's laughing. The camera zooms in on its mouth. And as it zooms in his mouth, it loses focus. It cuts back to Cooper, who's dancing in with a circle of light on him. The giant has been waving his hands no, but then it dissolves back to Mayor Milford. Suddenly, the typical dance music they were doing comes back up, and he kisses Cooper. But of course, Mayor Milford, something's wrong. This isn't right. There's something wrong here, which in previous times the mayor has said this way back in the pilot of Twin Peaks. It's a comical moment. It's a silly moment. Oh, look at this duddering old fool. And it takes this sinister tone. Then we cut to outside the roadhouse. We see the traffic light, the empty double R parking lot. The double R sign is not lit up. We go down the high school hallway. We down the Great Northern hallway. The phone rings as the camera's gliding across the sheriff's station's lobby. It zooms in on Andy's drawing there of the Owl Cave petroglyph. It dissolves into blowing branches of a fir tree. This is all mood, that Badalamenti music. This is
Badalamenti.
His score is incredible. We are talking. This is all mood all the time. This is a powerful moment that once again is about to be yanked off the air. And back in 1991, we're all going crazy. No, don't do it. Give us Twin Peaks back.
No, that is an awesome White Lodge minute. One more time, and in case you said it, can you just repeat who directed that?
It was directed by Stephen
Gyllenhaal. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I blanked. Thank you.
So good.
That is great. Yeah, and that's something that they had. From the beginning and throughout the show was just being able to turn just the most simple basic images into something terrifying because of just the way it was shot, how it was held.
Yeah.
So that's a great moment for Wyndham Earle.
Oh, yeah.
That's because...
Sorry, thank you for saying that, Mork, because I meant to make this point. In my opinion, this episode is much better Wyndham Earle than had previously been. I think that this next episode we're going to cover is better Wyndham Earle, and then the David Lynch finale, I think, is some of the best Wyndham Earle. And so it's like they're finally getting handle on his character, too.
Right.
So, yeah.
So, okay, cool. So you got, and then you have...
our special guest, he did so great hand work. He had been messing with people's hand. Oh, that's another thing I wanted to say.
Yeah.
This is unrelated to my White Lodge Minute. But, this is the episode where people suddenly start having these hand tremors, these little spasms in their hand. And then the episode ends with Bob reaching his hand out from the Black Lodge. We later find out in Fire Walk with Me that Teresa Banks, her arm went numb. Maybe she had one of these spasms a few days before she died. But one of the great things is there's a woman in the Double R Diner who has one of these hand spasms, and she is so great in it. But what's great is she actually appears in the episode you just talked about, Mork, episode 26, Variations on a Relation.
Yeah.
She is one of the people in the Roadhouse when Mike is telling Bobby the quote-unquote sexual secrets of Nadine, and Bobby screams, "Whoa!"
Yeah.
One of the people who turn around and look at Bobby and Mike is this woman who, in my episode, has this hand tremor, which is so freaky. So, yeah, let's get to June 10th. So we got yanked off the air on April 18th. Pretty much 2 months later, June 10th, the final 2 episodes of Twin Peaks on a Monday night aired back-to-back, which means Twin Peaks aired on every night of the week except Tuesday and Friday. It had episodes air on every other day of the week. So episode 28, German's entitled Miss Twin Peaks, directed by Tim Hunter, the last of 3 episodes he would direct, written by Barry Pullman. It's also the last time Cooper talks to Diane in my episode. So let's get to it. Let's also, in honor of our special guest, Bob, let's start in the Black Lodge because it happens early in the episode, minute 7.
Okay.
Minute 7 begins with Audrey telling Ben, it's the concentrate they make concentrate from. Ends a minute later with Ben saying, Audrey, have you given any more thought to, and then, of course, the minute ends, it continues. Oh, boy. Talking about Jack, I guess I have proven, I can roll with Dick Tremaine. He occasionally makes me laugh. Tim Bingle occasionally makes me laugh. Some things that Lana Milford and the mayor I love, and even Dougie Milford I thought was pretty good. I guess I'm finding my true feelings about John Jack with Justice Wheeler. I kept thinking during this minute, I don't care. Audrey, I should point out, is in this red dress. Now, Sherilyn Fenn. Oh, my Lord, is she beautiful. There's nothing to it. But to me, it doesn't even feel like a typical Audrey look. I don't know why suddenly I'm a costume designer, but it did feel different. Now, Ben,
maybe a little more modern or something like that.
There was something about it, right, that just didn't feel right to me. Ben is back in his business suit with his wonderful giant Save the Pine Weasel button.
Good. Finally.
Audrey talks about her Seattle trip where she found out, Twin Peaks Savings and Loan is partially behind the Martell plan to turn Ghostwoods into the Ghostwood Estates project. Audrey says the bank is trying to keep it secret. They don't want this bad publicity about, hey, we're going to cut down the forest and we're going to destroy the mill and ruin all these jobs. And Ben's like, well, bad publicity is exactly what they're going to get. This is setting up Audrey going to the bank. It is the narrative blueprints, the narrative bricks you have to lay to be able to build the wall of that we're going to blow up in the bank.
Right.
I love both these actors. Even though he's not in the scene, John Jack Justice Wheeler, destroying another minute for me. Minute 7. Oh, my Black Lodge minute.
It was rough. Do you take any solace in how great a job Billy Zane's doing in those Kentucky Fried Chicken ads?
Solace, not so much pleasure that he's in.
All right. I mean,
I actually thought he was good. I thought he was good in Titanic. He's a good actor.
He really is a good actor.
He was just stuck with a character I can't connect with.
Right. I think he and there's another actor, Peter Gallagher, who
from the OC. He's been in a million things.
Yeah,
Peter Gallagher. He's in Sex, Lies, and Videotape. He was in.
Yeah. My favorite performance he had was in. He had a small role as a sort of a faux Frank Sinatra and Hudsucker Proxy.
Oh, right.
And he was just spot on and perfect. But like sometimes when you have these guys who are just so pretty, it's just, come on. We don't want to look at that.
Well, maybe Billy Zane is just better at acting as an a-hole as he was in Titanic, because I really thought he was fine and good in Titanic.
Yeah, no, he was.
Let's me finish up.
And I have gained 15 pounds since he started doing those KFC ads.
Georgia Gold. Is that chicken?
He's
All right.
one of them. Yeah.
So let's get to minute 24. Oh, my goodness gracious. Minute 24. My White Lodge minute 24. So this may be a unique White Lodge minute for me. Minute 24 begins with Major Briggs wrapped in a blanket saying, Garland? Odd name. It ends a minute later with Cooper saying, if the door to the Black Lodge does exist, it probably exists at a point in time. So why of this pretty darn good episode is this my White Lodge minute? I just want to give it up to Don Davis, the actor who portrayed Major Briggs. This is some wonderful...
He is
completely
he
is
believable.
So good. He is so good.
Yeah.
He's theoretically been shot up with haloperidol, the drug that the one-armed man was taking. So he's obviously been tortured. He's been psychologically abused, and his acting is so wonderful. One of the things he does is his hands tremor. He's keeping his hand near his face and near his mouth, and it's tremoring and shaking. And that shaking of his hand is actually shaking his cheeks and jowls, and it's totally affecting him. It is really, really good. I was talking about in the previous episode, the White Lodge Minute was all about setting a mood. So obviously, with the Major in such disarray, that's an important mood. Andy walks in behind Cooper and Harry and begins resuming his position, standing and staring at the Owl Cave petroglyph. The mood is so good. Cooper says the line, and this ties partially to Wyndham Earl too. Cooper says the line to Harry, Harry, we're in trouble. And why is this so important? So one of the things a good villain has to do, you do have to fear him. You do have to, oh my goodness, what could happen? So when you see Major Briggs having suffered like this, the effects of this, then when Cooper says, Harry, we're in trouble, you begin to feel it. You begin to get that sensation like, oh, no, we do need to stop this. We do need to go. And so that is helping Wyndham Earl become a better villain.
Right.
Minute 24, my White Lodge minute, the one I enjoyed the best in this episode.
Very cool. Like, it's sort of towards the end, there's definitely still a little bit of fluff throughout these last few episodes. It feels like the important moments are really heightened.
Oh, yeah.
And they're much
exactly
more important.
Right. The stakes are suddenly there.
Yeah.
And I love it.
We're going to go to what we once thought was the final episode called Beyond Life and Death. It was written by the three-headed monster Mark Frost, Harley Payton, and Robert Engels, and directed by none other than Mr. David Lynch.
Woo.
Since we spend so much time actually in the Black Lodge in this episode...
Oh, man, I hadn't thought of that.
I'm going to take two. I'm going to have two Black Lodge moments here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And the White Lodge moment, trust me, is worth waiting for. So let me start with the Black Lodge moments. It's pretty early in the show. The first 9 minutes, 50 seconds in, we're at Big Ed's house. Big Ed and Norma are hanging out near the mantle of the fireplace, just waiting for Doc Hayward to finish up with Nadine and Mike, who both have bandages wrapped around their heads. They're recovering from what happened at the Miss Twin Peaks pageant. And Nadine wakes up. And Mike and Big Ed and Norma are all there. And Mike ends up apologizing about how this has all gone wrong because Nadine has regained her memory.
Yeah.
Sees Big
We all
Ed,
knew it was coming. We all knew it was coming.
Sees Big Ed and Norma in her house and in their house. And talks about how unfair it is. Screams out. Complains about where the hell are her silent runners. And
all comes full circle.
It all comes full circle. And we accomplish so much with this storyline. Not what we need to be spending time with.
Can I say that this scene, and we're going to talk about it a bit more once you go through all your minutes, but so many people talk about, oh, Lynch came in on that final episode and he threw out the script and totally did it, his way. That, in my opinion, is the completely wrong take. This scene you're talking about is pretty much, not exactly verbatim, but the words all the characters say are there in the first draft.
Right.
The one thing that's slightly different, and one thing I actually don't like about it, is that Lynch made Big Ed suddenly, kind of doing this snap.
Yeah,
like,
he's like...
everything groovy. That is so out of character for Big Ed.
Yeah.
And especially out of character for where they are. Yes, he's now with Norma, but he would still care about Nadine having, being checked out and being bloody
Yeah, she had a blade bandage on her head. Yeah,
right,
exactly.
And he's suddenly snapping, and so that was a director choice that Lynch made that I just personally don't like. And so that's one of the reasons I have trouble with this scene.
Yeah, and then to go from that to... Clearly, when she wakes up, Ed's like, "Oh, great, I got to go back to that."
Right.
So it just it was not great. No.
One thing people have pointed out about this minute you're talking about, is that Norma looks so happy to be with Ed for a bit, but people are like, well, Norma's sister just got kidnapped. Shouldn't she be freaking out? And people are wondering, ooh, is that a point that Annie never really existed, and that's how it ties into Mark Frost, The Secret History of Twin Peaks? Okay. I don't know if this is retconning or what. People do say that.
Yeah, maybe, but then how did she get the job at the diner?
Right, I don't buy it either. So, Mork, you said you have 2 Black Lodge minutes. Take us there.
I do. So we're going to go into the bank, in the basement of the bank, and 24 minutes in, and our old friend, our old bank manager is so excited to welcome Audrey back in. Audrey has chained herself to the vault door, and never in my entire life have I been more jealous of a vault door. But the old guy, at 24 minutes and 12 seconds in, Audrey asks him to go get some water. And he begins to go get her a glass of water. It's a noble cause, but it takes him 40 seconds to walk across the room, get a glass of water, and then come back. And then he gives her a sip, and then he walks back into the middle of the room and waits for another 15 seconds, where eventually Andrew Packard and Pete show up, where, bad things are about to happen. So, God bless Lynch, but he does love to talk about...
Languid Lynch. We had a whole podcast about this.
Yeah. I mean, this is just in the last episode to be spending time on... Oh, it's one thing for Nadine and Big Ed, and these are characters we spent time with, but, there's a brand new bank manager we've never seen before.
Del Mibler.
Yeah.
And you would like... Sorry to interrupt. I just want to say, I like the character of Del Mibler. I like him.
Sure.
He's fun, but did we need the
not
whole
this episode.
Right.
Yeah, not this episode. So it really sort of took me out of it a little bit. There's other stuff in this episode that I don't love. I mean, I enjoyed seeing Doc Hayward slug Ben, but the way that was shot, I mean, that was a completely different show where, the music is as if Bob's in the scene. Ben is knocked up against the fireplace. He's got blood all over the, similar to how Leland looked when Leland, killed himself by bashing his head against the wall. In an episode where we should really be spending as much time on what is the Black Lodge, what can it do, why is it bad for our, these characters that we love so much, what does it or Wyndham Earl really want, all that stuff, I feel like was diminished. Well, it wasn't diminished, but we could have explored it a lot more instead of some of this other stuff here. So
let me say about that scene, once again, it's pretty much the same scene from, once again, I'm looking at the first draft that the 3 writers wrote. The one difference is that, I don't know if there was an actor conflict or something, but Pete kind of replaces Catherine in the scene. Pete wasn't originally in at least the first draft of the scene. Pete replaces Catherine. I would assume it was just an actor conflict or something like that, or Lynch wanted to find a way to get Pete into an episode they all thought would be the final one.
Sure.
But Lynch's pacing, it is tough I know some people like it. Maybe it puts you on edge, like, ooh, what's going on? Why is this taking so long? It is an unnatural feel, which is obviously what he's going for. I could see it being a Black Lodge minute.
Yeah, it's pretty tough. And then at the end of that, and this doesn't happen until later, but it's just there's small little things where there's small touches that when you're dealing with the bulk of this episode takes place in the Black Lodge, where there are nonsensical things happening for a very extended period of time, and which it totally makes sense because we're in the Black Lodge and,
we
6
can't
is
understand
9.
It, right.
So that's okay. But when we're outside of it, when little touches happen, like the explosion, when the bomb goes off, they're in a basement bank vault. Somehow Andrew Packard's glasses...
I think it's Del Mibler's.
Oh, okay. Del Mibler's glasses, thank you, fly up the stairs and then out a window and then across the street onto a tree.
Well, that's an artistic shot. I kind of like that. Yes, it's not real in any way, but
for me, it should have been resisted. But anyway, so much great stuff, and
so let's get to the White Lodge.
This series, and when you look back on the series, when you look back on not just this episode, but any time they're in the Black Lodge, to my mind, it was the first time that you really had places that weren't really clear what they were, when they were, what was happening, and major dramatic moments are happening within them. And you think about shows like later on, like Sopranos is a good example with all the dream sequences that they used.
David Chase was inspired by this.
Yeah, I mean, it still has a real impact. I do, before I get to my White Lodge, I do want to mention just a couple of other things.
Sure.
And these are more questions to think about, and they may have an impact on Season 3. They may not, but they're just questions that I wanted to ask you, Bubba, and maybe some of our double Ls.
Who?
Loyal listeners, can explain to us, from maybe have a different point of view. So I thought it was a little weird that when Coop needs to go to One-Eye Jack's, he tells Harry, look, Harry, I don't need you for this. I need a bookhouse boy. Just send me your best guy, but I can't tell you anymore.
Right.
And Harry says, gotcha, no problem. He'll meet you at the bar. And he shows up, and he's like, well, you said you wanted my best man. And they go into One-Eyed Jack's together. They walk into the woods. They're getting to Glastonbury Grove. Coop says, Harry, I got to go on alone. You got to stay here. I know this is what I got to do. The stakes could not be higher.
No.
I mean, at this point, they've just had the Miss Twin Peaks pageant go upside down. We know there's been a kidnapping of someone that Harry knows Coop loves deeply, and he just sits on a log. He doesn't try to follow him in. He doesn't try to circle around. I thought that was interesting. When, for One-Eyed Jack's, much lower stakes, he did show up.
Well, that is from the original script. That at least the movement of it.
Right.
Lynch changes a bit of the dialogue and some of the pacing. That the
but he
script
didn't.
implies,
He didn't try to walk around the trees or anything like that. Yeah,
we saw. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. He was sitting out there for 10 hours. Okay, so we're in the diner. Here's another thing. We're in the diner, and Jacoby walks in with Sarah Palmer. Jacoby is wearing his best outfit ever.
Oh, yeah.
Jacoby knows. The costume designer knew this was the last episode because Jacoby is wearing a sort of a combination zoot suit, Sherlock Holmes, Danny Terrio inspired ensemble. It was really fascinating. So Sarah Palmer's with him, and she's going to tell Major Briggs something. She has a message. She's got a message for Major Briggs. So I thought this was really interesting, and because she looks like she used to look when she was drugged up. And what we had been told, she was drugged up by Leland, while Leland and our special guest were committing the most horrific acts known to man in her very house. She shares this message saying, I'm in the Black Lodge. Someone is speaking through her. It's not her voice.
Oh, no.
So going back, when she was drugged up, was she drugged up, or was she merely a conduit to the Black Lodge? Does it change anything else about what we know about Sarah Palmer and her history with Leland? I just thought it was really interesting looking back at that right now.
That's a very interesting, wonderful scene that at least wasn't in the first draft. And I think I actually haven't gone through all my files and stuff. I think I have a later draft.
Detailed files.
You're right. I think I have a later draft of this script, and it wasn't in that as well. So this might have been a Lynch creation because he brought back Heidi. The original script, once again, this goes to the first draft, it had no Bobby and Shelley. And that would seem weird, especially consider this was going to be the last episode ever. So,
right.
Interesting.
Yeah, and they do. You can tell that they're sort of bringing back a lot of characters we hadn't seen in a while. I mean, and that's a perfect example. Jacoby and Sarah Palmer. Here they are.
But the reason why there's a small chance that it did end up in a later draft is that when you talk to any of the writers about what would have been back then a potential season 3, they all talked about Major Briggs being a person who would help rescue Cooper from this fate.
Sure.
And so it's a great scene. It's an important scene. And especially, once again, talking about mood, we've already, by this point, we've already seen Jimmy Scott singing his song in the Red Room.
Yeah.
And this is really some of the most extended greatness that we ever get.
Happens. Yeah, that happens earlier when Coop first walks in.
Right. So we've seen that. Now we're seeing Sarah Palmer. The mood is tense. It's wonderful.
Yeah. It is great. It is great. So we're back in the lodge. There's some great moments. Obviously, Laura Palmer saying, she'll see us again in 25 years, and she was right. She called it. Points.
She should have said spoiler alert when she said that.
Yeah. She did wink at the camera. It was like that. But there were some interesting things that happened in the Black Lodge that I'm just thinking about in terms of how it's going to affect season 3.
All right.
We see the old man waiter and the giant in the same place. One and the same. Who is one and the same? Coop, the old man, and the giant. There's the theory of Mike and his arm, and
right. There was a theory at the time back in 1991 when he said one and the same, that the man from another place, the little man from another place, and the giant were one and the same.
Right.
Or it could have just been,
But then we see
it could just be, hey, look, it's it's kind of like, hey, the giant's here. One and the same, it could be anything.
It could be. It certainly could be. But then we see with the little man, we see the doppelganger little man. So there's a lot of questions, and it's hard to not try to just... we're staring at this so intently and trying to understand every little thing. And as we know, there's so many details throughout the show that Lynch would just do, and later on Mark Frost would turn it into something. So we're probably overanalyzing, but... Then again, we've been talking about the show for the last 90 hours.
Yeah, so, the middle name of this podcast is overanalyzing.
But please forgive us. Okay, so a couple of things there's so much happening. Basically, my description, even the most plain-spoken description, really wouldn't do it justice. So obviously, just you people should just have watched this and go watch this again because it's so great. But there's things that I'm thinking about. There's a moment where Wyndham Earl and Coop are chatting it up, and there's this thought of Wyndham Earl and Coop are going to be the new Mike and Bob. Could that be? But then, apparently, our special guest was offended that Wyndham Earl would stick his nose in the soul trading game. And so he destroys Wyndham Earl. But when Bob sends him out, he's being chased, obviously, by Bad Coop, and we don't really see who makes it out. Truman wakes up and he sees Coop and Annie are there. Annie is alive, but barely. And so this all leads up to my White Lodge minute, which is really, unfortunately, a Black Lodge minute. But, I mean, it's a minute that still kind of sticks with me to this day. And I remember when I was watching this the whole time, I remember just thinking, no. And it's Coop. It's after he wakes up and he tells Truman and Doc Hayward that he's got to brush his teeth. He tells them a couple of times.
Oh, man.
He walks into the bathroom, and we know a lot about Dale Cooper. One of the things we know for sure, he would not waste toothpaste like that. And he squeezes out the toothpaste.
You know it's coming. You just say no.
The whole time you're screaming, no, please, no, please, no. It's not just one of the most terrifying moments that I've seen in TV, but really, anything, because all that it meant. Coop is gone. He starts brushing his teeth, but then he just looks in the mirror, and guess who we see? He bashes his head. He falls down. Bob is here. Bob has won. Coop is gone. Roll credits. We are out. It still hurts. And it was just really that whole 26 episodes leading up to that 1 minute. And it was a real gut punch. And it's just a big part of why we're still yakking about it today.
That moment, you're right. You just keep saying no. You just keep saying no. And I'll say back then, because the show had been yanked off the schedule twice, suddenly now it's airing on a Monday night in June and gets very little promotion. You knew it was the end. And for it to end like that, oh my God, back then.
It was rough.
Oh.
I would like to ask some of our double L's, what were they thinking? What were you guys thinking when you saw this either 25 years ago or 6 weeks ago? Did you feel as bad as a Chicago Bears fan felt when their team drafted Mitchell Trubisky number 2 for our football fans out there? So what were you thinking, and how did you guys deal with the knowledge that, Coop is not Coop anymore, and someone, somehow, somewhere is going to pay? And how did you guys feel? How did you deal with it until this point, before this lovely podcast showed up, before all the other amazing Twin Peaks podcasts showed up? How did you deal with this? And what are you hoping to see in Season 3?
So, just to let you guys know, our next podcast, our final one before Season 3 starts, is our big Fire Walk With Me podcast. If you want to send us your White Lodge and Black Lodge minutes for Fire Walk With Me, let us have them. We are excited to know.
I have not actually seen Fire Walk With Me. I've held off. So I am looking forward to seeing it now with the context of the book, having rewatched the episodes, at least one time. It's gonna be fun. I'm a little nervous though.
So now it is time for our Twin Peaks Celebrity Encounters. Boy, folks, we have stretched these out. We've told you some great stories and pretty much
and some bad ones.
And a whole mess of bad ones. But now, because Season 3 is so close, let's have another celebrity encounter with a Season 3 celebrity. This might even count as 2.
Okay.
The wonderful autograph who's on our Secret History of Twin Peaks book we're giving away, the lovely, beautiful Amy Shields.
Absolutely.
So this story, we're both going to jump in and tell because we both got a chance to talk to her, both get a chance to see her. I'll set it up first. Mark Frost is doing his book signing of The Secret History of Twin Peaks in downtown Los Angeles at the Last Bookstore, a wonderful, cool bookstore that if you happen to be in downtown Los Angeles,
patronize it.
Yeah, go check it out.
Cash.
You'll really enjoy it. So there is a big line outside for everybody to get in and meet Mark Frost and hear him read from the book and have him sign it. So we are in this line. I'm standing in line for an hour. Mork, you hadn't shown up yet.
No.
And I'm just sitting there, people watching, talking to some people in line. And I just happened to notice this woman walking down the street with this other older woman, but this woman walking down the street, and she's just drop dead gorgeous. And I am like,
Well, they were both striking in their own way.
that's true. And I'm just watching, I'm like, holy smokes, that girl's beautiful. That woman's beautiful. But, of course, I don't think anything about it. We're in a downtown metropolitan area. Plenty of people walk by.
Yeah.
Because Amy Shields, if you look at her IMDb list, she hasn't done much that I have seen, any I'd seen, so I didn't recognize her at all. I'm just like, ooh, who is this beautiful woman?
Sure.
Mork shows up. We get into the Mark Frost presentation, the book signing, the book reading, all this stuff. We're right near the front of the stage, but right in front of the stage, they have these couches, which have definitely been reserved for special guests. And suddenly, when Amy Shields is sitting at the couch, I'm suddenly realizing, oh, wait a minute.
Hey, wait a
Actress
minute.
Amy Shields was coming today. That beautiful woman I saw earlier, that's Amy Shields. Oh, okay, great. She was sitting with Joanna Ray, casting director for all of the original Twin Peaks.
And the mother of
Eric DeRay,
also known
Leo
as
Johnson.
Leo
Oh,
Johnson.
yeah.
Yes.
I should also point, so that's maybe another Twin Peaks celebrity sighting. I should also point out that James Morrison, who is an actor who's also going to appear in season 3, was there as well. So we are there. We're at the book signing. So we're there. We're looking at, I'm, trying not to stare. It's terrible. She's just stunning. She's beautiful. Yada, yada, yada.
Yes.
So there's still, you can tell, about 30 minutes before this event is going to begin, and she steps up from the couch and kind of walks deep into the bookstore. And this is when, Mork, you become a hero. Let's hear
That is true.
it.
Well, look, like Mark Frost, I'm a huge fan of Sherlock Holmes. The power of deduction. I've been studying Twin Peaks for a long time, so I've been borrowing some, if not all, of Coop's investigative methods, and I deduced that if a woman was sitting on a couch and walked away,
Yes.
there was a good chance that she would return.
Aha. Elementary, dear Bubba.
Elementary, dear Bubba. With our double L's in mind.
Who?
Our loyal listeners.
Oh, that's right.
For God's sakes. And our booty in hand. So,
all these books.
To get in, we have to tell you, to get in, basically, to get a seat at this thing, you had to buy a book. And at least one. And in our case, we each bought several. So let's just say that the springs on Bubba's Prius have been loaded down for quite a while.
Right. We've got a lot of secret history of Twin Peaks to give away, peeps.
So we've got stacks of books. And so I figured, you know what? I'm not going to go up to her in front of 1,000 people, but maybe if I just tell her that we do a little-known podcast, The Gifted
and the Damned,
and maybe she could do a favor on behalf of our double L's, that she would go for it. And so I said hello. I introduced myself, told her I was a big fan of everything she had done and was yet to do, and told her about the show, and she, in the most charming, pleasant, and kind way, gave us an autograph, and some of our winners are already enjoying that autograph, and more will enjoy the autograph. And she looked me in the eye and she said, okay, these are the only 2 I'm going to sign, though. Don't ever ask me to sign anything again, or everyone else will.
Oh, boy, we ruined
Bubba,
that.
you take it from here.
So after Mark Frost had read from the book, he actually played audio clips from the audiobooks and just kind of talked about the project. Then everybody had to kind of get out of an audience and get into a line so we could have our book signed. Amy Shields goes up, she talks to Mark for a bit. She's thanking him. And so I'm like, okay, I got to get something signed. So I go up and I say, hey, can you have my book signed? And she signs my book. And then I said, oh, yeah, I got this other. It's like she personalized the book she signed for me.
She's great.
And then I'm like, oh, yeah, I also have this other one I need you to sign.
So thank you, Amy Shields.
Right. And then there was this kid. It looked like a teenager and his mom behind us.
Oh, with the poster that we should have stolen.
Who had this beautiful Twin Peaks poster.
That was fantastic. It was like Spanish or Polish. Where was it?
I forget what it was, but it was just beautiful. And so he sees us going up to this woman who I don't think he recognized either. And it was like, and so he brings his poster up and he has her sign it.
Yeah.
I think that was the only other thing she signed, our books in this poster.
But
what was
super
great,
kind.
after she signed it, and this kid and his mother, they were so excited.
Right.
But the kid suddenly leaned over to us and he goes, who was that? He couldn't read, these autographs sometimes, kind of not legible. And he was like, who was that? And we were like, that's Amy Shields.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, wow. But because he didn't know who it was, I said, look, give us that poster. You don't deserve this.
Sure, we'll take it. We gave him like a couple of old copies of, it was a Mad Magazine.
Right.
And I think there was a Far Side desk calendar that was it was, really just the last 6 months of the year. But I think he got some good use out of it.
So I am sad to say this. This Twin Peaks Season 3 will be the very first time I've seen Amy Shields act in anything. I just haven't seen any of her parts before.
But I'm sure not the last.
No.
Yes.
I am sure not the last.
No, she was great, and we enjoyed meeting her. And one thing that we've discovered, as you know, we've chatted with her, we've chatted with some other actors who have appeared on the show, is there's some very, very strict embargoes about what people can say, when they can say it. So we're going to try Double L's to have a couple, maybe one or two, of the actors who appear in the new series, but we got to do it in a way that's safe for them because they're
this is hardcore. If Lynch is making Showtime embargo reviews until the show premieres,
he'll still come out of the show.
Oh yeah, exactly right. Okay, now people who love our wild swings here, from Dick Tremaine silliness to Leland putting on the glove seriousness.
Oof.
Our last two sections here are going to swing wildly between moods. And so the first mood, let's get to it right now. I was watching, Mork, this Twin Peaks again for our Twin Peaks Minutes rewatch.
Okay.
And there was a scene that really struck me. Agent Cooper, he asks Hawk, he says, Hawk, get the arrest report on Leo Johnson.
Oh, sure. Yeah. He's looking at the poem that Cooper recognizes that was given to Shelley.
So then, just like a minute or two later, Hawk brings in this arrest report from Leo Johnson. Hawk hands the report to Cooper. Cooper says, "Good work, Hawk." And the way he says it, in his typical Agent Cooper, very encouraging way, I have to be honest, I thought to myself, good work?
Well,
you asked him to get you a report. He got it, and he handed it to you.
Okay.
Good work?
Well,
is this what I like to call a double C?
A double C?
Condescending Cooper.
Oh.
Like, this is a bit embarrassing.
Right.
And that made me think of, there's another time where Cooper asks a waitress, Annie, he goes, Annie, can I have a cup of coffee? She gets the coffee and she pours it. Cooper. Mm-hmm. That's perfect, Annie. Is that a double C, Condescending Cooper? I mean, what? Hey, you didn't spill any. That's perfect. It's Condescending Cooper.
I would not call that a double C.
Oh, okay.
Moment, because with Annie, he's very, I do believe that he's very earnest, he's very in love, but I think you're totally right. There are some moments.
Do you think it's what I like to call a double F?
A double F?
Flirting federal officer?
Yes, 100%. 100%. I would say in that same episode, we were talking about this, in that same episode, Harry is about 12 minutes in, Harry's reading a poem, and then he asks, "What is this?" And Coop replies, "It's a poem, Harry."
Oh, condescending, a double C.
That is what I call double C. 100%.
That is Condescending Cooper.
Yeah.
Man, oh man.
And you know what? There is actually a moment on the boat. So he's doing a nature study with Annie, and they're in a rowboat, and there's a white duck, which, have you ever seen a white duck in public? Like, I've only seen
white swans, not a white duck.
Yeah,
no.
There's a white duck swimming across the water. I've never seen a white duck unless it's in like a TV show or a movie.
Okay.
But anyway, whatever. So they're in a rowboat, and Annie says to him, "I don't know you very well." And Coop just looks at her and goes, "No."
It's a double C.
So he does have, he does have a habit of coming off as condescending.
Oh, man. Now, let me say, one of our great double L's, Matt LeBlanc, I was talking about this double C. He said, this isn't Cooper, but is this a condescending moment? He says, back in the pilot, Cooper says, "Who's the lady with the log?" And Sheriff Truman says, "We call her the log lady." And so he was like, is that a condescending moment? And so, Matt, I have to be honest, that's what I like to call a double S.
Double S?
Sheriff scoff.
Oh, man.
When he says, "Who's the lady with the log?" It's the log lady, moron. That's a sheriff scoff to me. Double S.
A little bit, yeah. No, I could see that. That one is not quite as harsh, because there is it may be, okay. Let's expand this theory. That's what we do here. We expand these impossible theories into
millennia.
Hidden secret truths. Okay, so is Condescending Coop, is he actually from the Black Lodge?
That's right.
Is that the Coop?
That's how season 3 gets it there.
He's just being really sarcastic.
Right. And so I started thinking about it.
So Agent Cooper is now being played by Bill Maher.
Right, exactly. I started thinking about this, Mork, and I have to be honest, Condescending Coop
So is there a way where, well, depending on how season 3 plays out, so if season 3 is told, if we're in another universe.
Oh, that's right.
So maybe he's not being condescending. Maybe that's the world that they live in.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, we there's all sorts of things that could be happening. There is another moment in the rowboat it's not Condescending Coop, but it is an exchange that I think should live for the ages, and I think it will unlock the key. This could be the Rosetta Stone for season 3.
Oh, man.
Why we haven't heard about Heather Graham, who played Annie Blackburn, being in the show, what her role is she alive, is she dead, why wasn't she mentioned at all in the Secret History? I think if you listen carefully to this exchange, and if you parse the words, I'll give everyone just 1 minute to pull out your laptop or your typewriter and type all this down. So Cooper is at the counter of the Double R, and he's talking to Annie.
Right.
And he tells her, "When I talk to you, I get a tingling in my toes and in my stomach." Annie says, "Interesting." Cooper says, "I don't think it has anything to do with coffee." Annie says, "I'll get those donuts." So I think it's pretty clear what's going on here. So this is basically the foundation of my theory of what happens in season 3, and we'll revisit it every week, every podcast. But not quite. I mean, not quite condescending. But he's also like, neither of them are listening to each other at all. And so maybe it's because they're just just coming from two completely different dimensions. That's the reason.
That could be.
It could be right there.
But that also feels a bit like a double F. Flirting fed. So now let's do a wild tone shift away from our double C coverage, and let's get to kind of one thing I've always wondered. I think Twin Peaks fans have always wondered since 1991.
Yeah.
How involved was everybody in the back end of the show, Frost and Lynch? We know Frost was planning for organizing his feature film directorial debut, Storyville. And so he may have even gone to New Orleans to film Storyville at that time. We know he was out of the loop for a bit, even though, according to interviews with Harley Payton, he read every script. He read every script. Every script still had to go through him of Twin Peaks before it could move forward, even though other people had writing credits.
Right.
He's above. Plus, there is what can only be described as a tale that has been passed around. I have to be honest, I don't remember how I heard it. It may have been something the actress Catherine Coulson said at a Twin Peaks Fan Fest up in North Bend, like they always have.
All right.
But I pulled this out of an article recently. It says, Lynch returned to the Problem Plague series. This is talking about season 2 doldrums and that kind of stuff. At the begging of Catherine Coulson, who portrayed the log lady. And he essentially threw out the latter half of season 2 finale. And so that, number one, I feel is a description that's really kind of wrong. Lynch did tweak in many ways this season finale of season 2, what ended up being the series finale all these years until now. But in some ways he didn't. I mentioned a lot of scenes, to be honest, are pretty much exactly as they were in the script. Now, he would add tweaks to them, like the first scene in the sheriff's station. Lynch added the log lady, and he added Ronette Pulaski, and he added engine oil. But the heart of the scene is still the same. Many of the lines of dialogue are exactly the same. And even in the stuff that he did change, like the infamous Red Room Black Lodge sequence at the end of the episode, many of the story beats are exactly the same and were the story beats created by the writing team. So Wyndham trying to get Cooper's soul and Bob telling him he can't do that. It was portrayed differently in the script, but it was in the script. That is from the script.
How was it portrayed in the script? Because I haven't seen it.
Oh, sorry. To answer your question, Mork, it was more, to be honest, it was just maybe more logical, more easy to understand, and maybe a bit too logical and real. So Wyndham Earl was using like tools almost. Like there's a point where there's a dentist chair and he was going to, actually use tools to pull out Cooper's soul and that kind of stuff, as opposed to kind of the wonderful thing we arrived at.
Yeah.
The flashing between Caroline Earl and Annie.
Yeah.
That was in the original script. And certainly the piece de resistance, the end of the episode, where Coop wakes up in bed next to Truman and Doc Hayward and says, I have to go
I love how
my...
that sounds, by the way.
What do you mean? My burping, or what do you mean?
No, Coop wakes up in bed next to Truman and Doc Hayward and says, I have to brush my teeth.
But, him saying he has to brush his teeth, him going into the bathroom, that's in the original script.
Right.
And even the Catherine Coulson calling and begging Lynch to come back and fix this show, which is going wrong. I do believe that's probably true just because I've heard it so much that she called him. But I'm just having a hard time seeing about when he really wasn't involved in the second season.
Right.
So Lynch, we know he directed the episode 14 of the entire series, Lonely Souls, the Laura's Killers Revealed. He directed that. Just a couple episodes later, Robin Lively is introduced as Lana Milford. Mm-hmm. Robin Lively, older sister of Blake Lively. Lana Milford was...
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I didn't... Yeah.
Crazy.
Robin Lively, Lynch specifically cast her. He pulled her out. He was like, this is the one I want. And so the idea that he's casting somebody, but he doesn't know the part they're going to play, I just have a hard time seeing that.
I have a hard time believing that he wasn't in constant contact with
right,
Frost and the guys.
A couple episodes after that, episode 18 introduces Evelyn Marsh, called Masked Ball. Now, what's great is the actress who played Evelyn Marsh is named Annette McCartney, and she did a interview with Twin Peaks historian Brad Dukes, and she was cast by David Lynch. And Brad Dukes asked her, after you audition, was David Lynch very involved with the show? I've always heard varying stories about the second season, so that's Brad's question.
Yeah.
She answers, very much hands-on all the way. We shot out in Van Nuys, and it was very hot, and David was doing other things, had his finger in all these pies, but he was very hands-on, very much so. Brad Dukes asked her, how about Mark Frost? No, not that much. He was in casting, he was available, but no, not that much. So she's kind of telling the exact opposite of the kind of general narrative that Lynch wasn't around much and Frost was.
I mean, maybe Frost just didn't want to have anything to do with her scenes. I mean, that storyline is very much, it's probably the most tangential of the tangential storylines.
Right.
Doesn't even take place in Twin Peaks.
So, the Evelyn Marsh around 18. Gordon Cole appears in episode 25 and 26.
Yeah.
David Lynch is there.
Yeah.
So, and then, of course, he directs the finale.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, some of these things, of course, seem to contradict each other. So that was Annette McCarthy, Robin Lively, those kind of things. But now here is from Kenneth Walsh, the actor who portrayed Wyndham Earle.
Oh, yes.
So they Wrapped in Plastic. This is Wrapped in Plastic number 20, where they interview Kenneth Walsh, and they're talking to him. And they're talking about his interactions with David Lynch. And so he, how he met him and this kind of stuff. And he says that he didn't meet David Lynch until the second episode that he shot, which was the one Diane Keaton directed. Mm-hmm. And he was dressed up in this weird plaid suit with a mustache. This is where he's dressed up.
Checking into the hotel.
Oh, boy, I don't know. This is when
Playing the German guy.
It implies that this is when he goes to see Donna as the friend of Doc Hayward's, or actually Wrapped in Plastic thinks it might be when he was in the library to meet Audrey Horne. So that's when he met David Lynch. And according to Kenneth Walsh, the story is David came up to him on the set. Bob Engel said, David, I'd like you to meet Wyndham Earle. Kenneth Walsh. David looked him up and down and said, good deal. And then he went off. That was it.
That's great.
So Lynch sees Earl in a disguise. He knows these things are happening.
I'm sure by that point he's seen, a headshot. He's probably seen some tape. He's probably, he knows who the guy is. Okay, he's here. This is okay. Yeah, I mean, and he's busy and he's working. When you're on a set, you don't have that much time to just sit around. And I think that they did have a partnership, and I think that ebbs and flows, and probably by that point in the series, it wasn't just Frost and Lynch. I mean, you did have Engels and Peyton and some really
Pullman,
really strong people, and it's kind of like, okay, look, as long as either Lynch or Frost is the final decision maker, then the other was probably okay with it.
Well, let's get to that if that's okay. Let's go to a Wrapped in Plastic issue 17, an interview with Harley Peyton, where Harley Peyton says, that whole second season was difficult for a lot of reasons. One of them was the relationship between Mark and David becoming less and less fruitful. It wasn't that they were battling. It was just they were going their separate ways. And Harley Peyton says he felt like he was in the middle.
Right.
And so one of the things that Peyton and Lynch had a falling out is that according to Peyton, and I'm going to read this once again straight from Wrapped in Plastic, he says, David wouldn't really read the scripts until the night before we would shoot. Then he would call and say, really, I think you ought to do this, this, and this. And then the director of the episode would say, well, we can't do this. It's ruining everything that the director had planned. And so Peyton would call up to Mark Frost and he'd say, Mark, you've got to talk to David because we can't do it. The director's going to do this. I've got to tell the director to do what he planned. And Frost would say, no problem, I'll talk to David Lynch. But then because Frost was so busy, he never occasionally would tell Lynch these things. And so Lynch would blame Peyton. Sure enough, in this exact same quote, he says, at one point, David wanted us to write a scene where he would kiss Madchen Amick, as Gordon Cole.
Yeah.
So,
well, who wouldn't?
But this was kind of coming up out of the blue. It wasn't.
Yeah.
Now, of course, that ends up being a fun scene. The fact that Shelley can hear Gordon Cole is a great idea, but kind of flying so much like that is real tough on a weekly show.
Yeah, no, that is tough. And, I mean, it's unfortunate and to hear that, Lynch was blaming Peyton, who was working on it full time.
Yeah, he's your employee. He's just doing right.
And he's in a tricky position. It reminds me a little bit of, especially speaking of last minute changes. One of our favorite shows here is Deadwood.
Oh yeah,
and that was notorious for. And the difference was David Milch would write basically everything and then still change it at the last minute. So that is part of it. And sometimes when you're in production on something and you're about to make something, you only have once it's shot, it's shot. So you only have so many times to come up with an idea or suggest something. And, so it could have just been Lynch's process where he didn't think of it. He didn't have to focus on it. Because a lot of times, when you're working through a script, things change all the time.
Oh, yeah.
You're shooting 8 days on an 8-day schedule and you're doing rewrites the entire time. You don't always know what's going to be shot the next day until the day before.
Right.
So that's not so crazy, but it's a little disheartening to hear that A, stuff that Lynch wanted to do wasn't being done, and B, that he allowed it to continue,
right,
and was just blaming people for it. But these things are tough to do.
Well, here's one other thing. Sorry to jump out from this.
No.
Peyton interview with Wrapped in Plastic that I've always kind of thought is very interesting. Peyton says he's sympathetic to Lynch, and he says David was baking wild at heart during the first 7 episodes, the first season, so he really wasn't around. And he said then suddenly David was on the cover of Time magazine, and then all these stories like he was Rain Man, and Mark is the Tom Cruise character. I think David felt really bad he wasn't earning all the credit he was getting. This is very much like David to go in there and get to work, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just the whole process was so delicate that it was very hard to keep going. That really explains it. I think now that we've covered Season 2 in its entirety, I just want to say my own thoughts about Season 2. This season, it does have some, what I would call bumps in the road. I've called doldrums multiple times. But when I think of the series, almost all my favorite moments happen in Season 2. I mentioned that my favorite episode was The Killer Reveal, directed by David Lynch and written by Mark Frost and David Lynch. Such a great episode. The two of them working together, so great. This scene we have here, the end, I hate seeing Cooper in the mirror, but that whole Red Room sequence that Lynch, kind of took the story beats from the script, but then made it his own. He would, came up and made it so trippy and so unique and wonderful. Everything in the second season is not maybe perfect. Maybe it's perfect to some. Opinions vary. But the second season gets so much bad will.
Well, it does, and it was sort of funny when as you were talking and you quoted Catherine Coulson talking about and it wasn't her quote, but in reference to the problem-plagued second season. As much belly aching and complaining as I've done, when I heard that, I was like, problem-plagued? Who are you? What are you talking about? This is amazing. So yeah, it did have some ups and downs. One last thing that sort of talking about the Red Room, especially in that last episode, that I thought was really interesting that we haven't talked about so much, and I wish they had gotten into it. I wish they had spent a little bit more time throughout the series, particularly when in regards to Laura. We do see Laura, and we also see her doppelganger, who is creepy.
Oh man,
she and her. I mean, her screaming. I mean, just everything about her is. It's not just the contact lenses she's wearing. I mean, she's creepy. And so, and we talk about in the diary, and we talk about so much of like Laura knew, and Laura wanted to die because she didn't want this to happen to her. She didn't want that Laura to get into, this world. Or at least that's my understanding of it. Okay.
I think that's a good interpretation.
Metaphysics is not my thing. So that was something that kind of, closed that loop up a little bit. And I think that one of the other interesting things about the Red Room in the Black Lodge that we're in a place that we don't really understand. There are, through parts of it are in the sequence of Coop getting hurt, because he's stabbed.
Yeah, he's reliving the Pittsburgh experience.
He's reliving that, and so there is violence going on in that. But what's interesting about it is, as unnerving as it is, I don't find it as scary, as frightening as a lot of the scenes that take place in the real world. Just simple as Bob's in the corner. Just walk, for God's sake. Use your legs.
You could walk around the couch. You don't have to climb over it, Bob. Come on.
Jeez Louise. The shot, the shots of the ceiling fan or the record player, or even just a shot of the carpet. Those were moments where what you were talking about, where the end of episode 25, 24, Gyllenhaal directing, where that last sequence, all that is basically
so ominous, so
it's
great,
so ominous. It's all in the real world, and getting to spend a lot of time in the Red Room towards the end of the series. I wish it would have happened earlier, because I think one of the reasons when you watch it, sort of subconsciously, what you're afraid of is that what's in that Black Lodge is going to leak into our world here.
Oh yeah.
And so, it's only when you really see that does it really click for me. And I'm looking. Maybe that's what season 3 is. Who knows? I certainly don't. But
in approximately, because this podcast is about to come out in approximately 2.5 weeks, we'll know.
Yeah.
Exciting.
I'm terrified. And the damned.
We end this podcast the way we end every podcast,
with a song,
with the best part of the podcast, your feedback.
Let's do it.
Mork, why don't you start us off?
Okay, here we go. Christmas Perv, who's a kindergarten teacher. No, we don't know. The Twin Peaks nerd that I am. It's a shame I haven't heard this podcast till just now. In all caps, subscribed. Kaboom. Oh, man.
Thank you. And I just wanted to start.
Thanks, Perv.
I wanted to start with that one, because the username Christmas Perv, that's really something.
Yeah.
Our good Double L Neo Luddite Visions wrote, "Love this episode." He was talking about the last one we did. He said, "Especially the Wyndham being a 60s Batman villain shout out. Haha, so true. They went with too much zaniness rather than gritty nutjob." Now that Batman villain, I should say, that's come from a lot of people. Yeah. I heard our good friends on the Diane podcast describing him as that. And also, we got this wonderful feedback from Matt. You have to read it, Mork, because it's all you.
From Matt Gilbert. Hang on, I'm going to take a sip of water because this goes on for a little bit. Okay, here we go. From Matt Gilbert. Good kid, that James. Good kid. Okay, Thomas Clapper says...
Thomas Clapper writes, "Since we're in the home stretch here, I have to get a huge concern off my chest. Something that could possibly ruin season 3.
Does it involve Christmas Perv?
Needs acknowledgement. Christmas Perv, he makes everything better." So Thomas writes something he's very concerned about. He says, "It's the absence of Michael Ontkean, a.k.a. Sheriff Truman. To me, Cooper and Truman's friendship is a top highlight of the series. Mm-hmm. Maybe Robert Forster's character will turn out to be Harry's older brother, Franklin, as many have speculated.
Okay.
It would sadden me if Harry is dead just because Aunt Kian didn't come out of retirement. What are your thoughts? Thanks, and keep up the spectacular work." Oh, thank you for that compliment, Thomas. I just want to say, Thomas, Michael Aunt Kian isn't on the season 3 cast list. And I tend to mirror your feelings exactly. Aunt Kian and Truman... Mm-hmm. They were the yin and the yang. They made the show what it is. There's a reason why those two, are the top billed actors.
Yeah, they grounded the show.
I would also say, and we're going to talk about this next time on our Fire Walk With Me podcast, but Truman accepting Cooper, Truman is the audience surrogate, always, and sometimes that people may feel that makes him a dry character. But because Cooper does this stuff and has these quirks, but because someone who in the first 20 minutes of the pilot, before Cooper showed up, someone is rational, he's logical, he's doing the great things, he cares, he has emotions, he cares about this.
Yeah.
Truman accepting Cooper
legitimizes Cooper.
Helps make Cooper loved. I do know some very minimal spoilers about season 3. And I will just say, and hopefully this won't do anything.
All right, I'm going to close my ears.
I will just say that some people believe that list of cast members of 200 doesn't include everybody. Yeah. That there are going to be some people who weren't on that cast list who are going to show up. That's what some people believe. Now, maybe that means Heather Graham. How can you do season 3 without Annie, that kind of stuff?
Right.
But that is what people have said.
That is my hope. We've seen it. We've definitely seen it done before in other movies where there was big characters, there was big reveals. I don't know if any of you remember seeing Interstellar. There was a huge movie star who appears in that towards the end, and they kept that secret throughout until you actually saw the movie. It was like, oh my God, this guy's in this movie. So it can be done.
Don't give up faith.
Yeah.
There's a small chance, I would say, if they're not on the cast list, that these characters might have just small, minor appearances. So, yeah, we might be getting Franklin Truman more than Harry. But I think there's maybe a chance we'll see him. I don't know.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see. So Matt LeBlanc touches on a similar question, on a similar theme. If they are going with this otherworld approach, then I wonder if it's in a timeline where Harry's brother just stays on as sheriff. I believe he was in Secret History of Twin Peaks when Harry eventually took over. Okay, this tracks. It would be kind of nice to hear that Harry went on to be a football star or something like that if his football team won the big game in this other timeline. I agree that his absence is a hit in the gut. No Truman, no Man from Another Place, no Bob, Limited Log Lady, no Pete, no Catherine, no Josie. I am optimistic and above the moon that this is happening, but I can't lie that I am with you. That lack of certain characters weigh heavy on the mind. Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, I think we're all a little antsy.
Without question. Now, our last podcast, we invited you to send more tinfoil hat, crazy theories out there, and one of our...
So crazy, they just might work.
Right, and one of our wonderful double L's, Shadowcat Bex, wrote this one, and she wrote, I have a good new tinfoil for you.
All right.
The owls are not what they seem, and in essence, the Black Lodge/White Lodge lore is an elaborate PR stunt concocted by the Packard Mills as an anti-conservative movement to turn the general population against owls to enable unfettered exploitation of the woods for their own gain. If the owls are evil and there is a darkness living in the woods, no conservationist group could even hope to save the great horned owl in the face of the timber industry greed. Lynch and Frost are nothing but puppets acting in the interest of corporate America. Season 3 will just be propaganda for the declining timber industry. Oh my goodness gracious.
That makes a lot of sense.
You know what? Finally, some truth.
Yeah.
There is so much fake news out there. Shadowcat Bex, you've done it.
She's done double L's.
That's a secret code of corporate greed.
Son of a... All right.
Our final comment, I just want to say that we had some feedback a while ago about somebody who did not appreciate our lighthearted, he thought possibly mean-spirited take on Johnny Horn when he was a guest here on the Gifted
and the Damned
podcast. We brought up his concerns and his criticism and his pointing out that we might have been rude people in one of our feedbacks.
Sure.
And so Brandon wrote back and he said, I just listened to you guys talking about my comment. He gives us respect for being level-headed. Brandon says he will always be the guy who defends people who cannot defend themselves. And so...
Like Coop.
Yeah. Brandon, keep listening. We love it.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Brandon. We appreciate it.
And let me also warn everybody, we crack wise all the time. So there are probably going to be a million silly things that you should call us out on. We're not afraid to have you call us out on them. We always say you can't unsubscribe.
Unless you subscribe. In anger. Wait, do you subscribe in anger or you unsubscribe in anger?
Boy, that would be something.
Yeah.
We say one of the many dumb things we say. You subscribe in anger just so you can unsubscribe.
Yeah.
Victory!
It feels so good.
Folks, think about it. We're in May 2017. Next week, our next podcast, we're covering Fire Walk With Me. Give us your Fire Walk With Me thoughts. Then we're diving into Season 3. Mork, I'm so glad you're here with us.
I am too.
We need to be a powerful front.
Yeah, let's do it.
To confront the Black Lodge.
I'm a little nervous, but I think we can handle it. I'm ready.
For all of us here at the Double B Podcast Network, my name's Bubba. You can find me on Twitter at Fit and Trim. That's FITTENTRIM at Fit and Trim on Twitter.
Mork is at Extraordinary. That's extraordinary with the W in front of the final R.
And Bob, we'll give you the last word on today's podcast.
Be quiet!